It usually is. We're going to make this up as we go. I think we're like, no show notes tonight, no nothing. We're just going to talk.
We're just going to talk. Chew the fat. Do it the
Yeah,
old fashioned way. Why not?
exactly. So let's just ramble for a few minutes like we usually do. Let people start seeing the live notification. I know we did have a school board meeting in Bossier, so some folks may be still either there traveling home or whatever. So might take a little while for the crowd to come into the show.
Well, especially with the impending snowmageddon in Bossier. I mean, heck, it's 38 degrees and DOTD is shutting the world down in North Louisiana.
Well, not to get too far on my soapbox, but they closed 220 at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. I was coming down from Gillum, and instead of jumping on 220 and coming on home, I had to go all the way through Shreveport, down I 20, cut across through Industrial Drive like everybody else. It was bumper to bumper traffic from Industrial Drive and 220 all the way up Shed Road.
Well,
Really, really made me angry.
all I want to know is what are they going to do about all that sand getting dumped on the Texas Street Bridge because they closed I-20 down too, is what I'm told.
Well, they'll already have sand there from the sand trucks if we have an ice storm. But look, it's only getting down to, I don't know, 30 maybe 29, 28 in some areas. The ground's already is warm. It's not like I predict it will not freeze over tonight. Not even
Yeah,
close.
I don't think it will either. I mean, I can't believe they're shutting the world down, but that's neither here nor there. Hey, everybody watching, we have got a really amazing guest tonight. I mean,
Oh,
I
yes, we
think
do.
wisdom beyond our years, and I am excited. I hadn't been able to talk to this cat in well, you as well. I mean, it's been over a century, right?
Yeah, it was last century, basically, when we talked to him.
Literally, the last time we talked to him was last century. So I'm really excited about talking to him and what his future plans are. But hey, if you care about COVID and you care about some of the stuff going on in the public schools and the mask mandates and the separating everybody and all that stuff, hey, there's some fresh news out of North Louisiana. So you might want to tune in because, to best of my knowledge, I don't think that any other parish school system has took the action that just happened in Bossier tonight.
Yeah, so we got some interesting stuff to do. All right, so I'm about to hit go on the countdown and all that kind of good stuff. So we've got about 30 people watching, so we want to encourage everybody. Text your friends, call your friends, tag your friends in Facebook, send them the YouTube link. We don't care, whatever. Share this out because we've got a really good guest coming on who I think is running for lieutenant governor. Is that
Yeah,
basically correct? Maybe?
just some little small office,
Nah.
one step away from the governor's office, but nothing big.
Yeah, so should be very interesting. Anyway, so for those of you that are new, we've got about a 2.5 minute countdown plus a little 30-second or 1 minute video. Anyway, we'll be back about 3.5 minutes. That gives you time to go make a good stiff drink, grab some popcorn, tag some friends, get them to watch, and we will be right back. This live broadcast is brought to you by Eagle Truck Center, soaring to new heights. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Well, we made it through another countdown.
Another. Let's see here. Unmask Our Kids, Louisiana. They are definitely going to want to pay attention to this. Got them. It's the last one I got.
Okay, so yeah,
I'm done.
Just so everybody knows, while we're doing the countdown, one of the things Duke and I do is try to share this out into different groups and stuff like that we're in. So some of you may get double notifications if you happen to be in the same groups. And so anyway, we ask that everybody else share it out too. All right. So let's see what we've got. I've got a couple of spam comments on the YouTube side, so I may have to deal with that in a minute. But anyway, so
looks like somebody's hitting us right out of the gate.
Yeah, but that's on the YouTube side. So
yeah, Tim Euler. Yeah, Brandy Pooh is on top of everything, and I was advised that Jill Hines, she's in Facebook jail. Apparently, they went after her, and I did tell her, I was like, do you not have one of those Pierre Delecto accounts? She said, well, they got that one too. So she's out of the equation. So we're just, there they are.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Block user. This is going to be interesting. Now, not everybody can see these, I guess. I'm going to have to disable comments on YouTube.
Well, so tonight, for those of you watching, and across YouTube and our other channels in Bossier Watch, we've got a really amazing guest. And, I was fortunate to be able to meet this cat, like we were joking in the beginning of the show, I guess over a decade ago. And at that time, I mean, he had a amazing life, career, history before that, and has served in, the country, the public, in countless ways. I was impressed with him then. In fact, not to take away from the other candidates in the race that he was running for at that time, but I got to tell you, he was, in my opinion, the most impressive. And I think, Rex, you've got maybe a video of one of his recent ads. He's running for a new office, and I think you've got one of his recent ads that we were going to kind of prop up there and play, huh?
Yes, sir, I do. So let's go ahead and let's see. Do we want to bring him on and then play the ad and get him to comment on it, or run the ad and bring him on?
Your call. You're driving the ship tonight.
Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and bring him on? I'll play the ad. He'll be able to hear it. And so, Duke, if you don't mind, because he probably can't hear us at the moment, but if you'll shoot him a text and tell him to unmute.
Okay. I will do just that.
I think I heard him scratching around there. Mr. Elbert Gilroy, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, and let's get some comment, folks. Make sure that y'all can hear Mr. Elbert. I think it sounds great. So how are you this evening?
Doing very well. And yes, I have been around for almost a century. I agree.
Well, we were joking that it's been a century since we saw and talked to you. And it's not that you hadn't been around. Our paths just have not crossed since then.
Yeah,
that is true. Let's get back together.
I think it was, what was that, Duke? 2016 when we had the Bossier Republican Committee had the debate for the, was it state rep race? Or the U.S. rep race?
I'm losing track of time. I thought it was before then, so it might not have been a century.
Yeah, I think it was 2015 or 2016. I don't know if you remember that debate, Mr. Elbert. That was you and Mike Johnson, and who else was Oliver Jenkins. Who else was running? I've forgotten.
There was a sharp young doctor who was involved in that also.
Yeah, there was, and I can't remember his name. We'll have to look that up. Shame on me. All right, so Mr. Elbert.
Trey Baucom.
Trey Baucom.
Yes, it was. Trey Baucom.
Yeah, so Mr. Elbert, what I want to do is I've got a video queued up of yours, and so I'm going to play that video. Of course, you won't be able to see it because you're calling in, but you should be able to hear it. And I want to lead off the show with that, and that'll lead us into the discussion. How about that?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go.
It has become popular recently to blame slavery for a bunch of things like the bad behavior of black school children, the fact that more black people commit crimes per capita than white people, even the horrendous black-on-black murder rate. Blaming slavery for all of that is absolute hogwash. 60 years ago, we did not have those crises in the black community. To blame today's woes on a system that ended 200 years ago absolutely ignores facts like today, 75% of black children are born into homes with no daddies. Today, 85% of young black men spend countless hours playing violent video games. Today, there's an almost total breakdown of Christian guidance and moral training in the black community. And incidentally, if I wanted to curse anyone for slavery, the first person I would curse would be the black African who kidnapped my great-great-grandfather in Africa, then sold my pawpaw to a white man with a big ship. No, slavery has been over. Slavery is not responsible for our woes today. We are responsible for them, and we need to correct those problems. Whitey didn't do it. We did.
All right, so Mr. Elbert, I got to tell you, that is a very, very powerful video. But I also got to tell you, it's Black History Month. You might get in trouble for doing some video like that and saying those things.
I get in trouble for saying half of the stuff that I say because it's not popular. Truth is often not popular, but it's something that I have to, as an American and as a Christian, I have to tell it. Even though it costs me a lot of friends and people call me some terrible, horrible names, as long as I don't disappoint my God and my mama and daddy, who are both in heaven waiting for me. As long as I don't disappoint them, I'm all right. I sleep well at night.
Amen to that.
I got to tell you, I mean, you know, and I've heard you speak before, and I've seen you around the state, and you know, you have a story and a history, and you know, the words in even that video and your life and the things that you have done. I mean, it's just like there was a story that come out in some of the social media here today. Rex, you and I were talking about it earlier today, and it was talking about, you know, how a lady here in Bossier, I think, had gotten in trouble for whipping her kids. And me and Rex we were talking about the show tonight, and you coming on and talking about how, well, you know, half of the folks don't agree with it these days. Half of the folks do agree with it. And then we were recollecting about when we were kids. I mean, I'd get my butt tore up. And if I acted out, and it didn't matter whether you were white, black, brown, orange, yellow. I mean, when you were a kid, we got our butts whooped, and we said, you know what? I bet you Elbert is the same as us. I bet when he was a kid, he got his butt tore up if he got in trouble. I mean,
yes, indeed. My mama first. Dad was always in the background, but and I tried my best not to get a whipping from him. But Mom did not hesitate. I mean, she used whatever was handy. She didn't have to go out and get a switch. There might have been electrical cord or a shoe or whatever it was. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But I thank my mother every day for straightening me out, keeping me on the right path. And I thank my daddy for being right there in the background. I didn't want to mess with him. I never wanted a spanking from him, but he was right there ready.
Well, I gotta agree with you on that one. I tell the story every once in a while, but my dad only gave me a spanking twice, and like you, I tried to avoid that. And my dad was the best dad in the world, but one of those was for eating Oreo cookies, and I would eat them as a kid. I would eat the middle out of them, the white middle, and put the cookies back together and put them back in the cookie jar. And, and he warned me, because that was both our favorite cookies, and he warned me a couple of times, boy, you keep putting those cookies back in there and I'm going to whoop you. And I was like 5 or 6 years old. Well, he came in one day, he worked for Halliburton, he came in one day, been out on the job for days, and he was looking forward to eating those Oreo cookies, and I like ate the whole jar and put them back in there, and he was hot. And he tore me up for that, and I never, ever did that again, ever.
Those are the lessons. Those spankings, the spanking that you remember now, stopped the bad behavior. You never ever did that again. And that's what we don't have enough of right now. We don't have enough serious parental involvement in rearing our children. So our schools are hotbeds of violence because the children go there disrespectful and disobedient because they've never had consequences.
I would agree with you on that, and just I'm not going to get on public schools too much because we have some good schools up here in Bossier, and we got plenty of good schools across the state. But I agree with you 100% that unfortunately, because in some households, and I would argue in many households, again, it's white, black, pink, or purple, doesn't matter, there's a lack of discipline, and from that, like you said, is a lack of respect, and that carries right over into the classroom. And now we got to have all these sheriff's deputies and all that in the schools, and telephones in the rooms for emergencies, and all this other stuff is going crazy.
Isn't it amazing how far backward we have gone in the last 60 years? There was no discipline problem when I was a student in school 60 years ago. No, there was no discipline problem. Kids, there was no need for police. There was a teacher in that classroom in charge of it, and there were consequences for bad behavior. And if you really got bad, you had to go see the principal, and that was like seeing death.
That was terrible. Yes, I'll tell one more quick story, and I'll let Duke chime back in too. But one other story. So I went to elementary school in Haynesville, Louisiana, which is back at that time it was about 3,000 people up north Louisiana. Anyway, everybody knows everybody, and I was in a gifted and talented class. So it's a bunch of us supposed to be smart kids, elementary kids in there. And so our English teacher, was reading us a book, and the very first day of class, she said, I have one rule. Do not talk in this class out of turn. You raise your hand, and I will let you speak if we have time. Yes, ma'am. Well, anyway, the Methodist pastor's son, there was a cute girl that sat behind him, and so he turned around one day, it was like the first or second day, and he was talking to Kathy, and we could all see Miss Mosique get up from her desk, and she pulled out this piece of, I swear it was like a part of a fan belt off of a car out of her desk drawer. And so Michael's turned around, and he's got his hand stuck on his desk, and he's turned around talking to Kathy, so he can't see her coming with that switch. And we're all sitting there with a shocked look on our face, and she wrapped that belt across the top of his hand, and he let out a yelp. She said, I told you, don't talk in this class. And guess what? None of us ever did that again.
I do remember the fan belt.
So,
well, Mr. Elbert, I appreciate and respect, your experience in life, and we wanted to get you on, and you're running for a new office, and I'm hopeful that you're going to get in there, because my personal opinion is we're lacking we're lacking common sense. And somebody said one time, they say, I may be a Rhodes Scholar of Stupidville, but I get out of the office every now and then, and that basically just describes a person with common sense. Well, you're that guy with common sense, and you've been around a while, and you've been on both sides of the aisle. You know what? You tell everybody about yourself. I mean, they're your credits, they're your credentials. I think people ought to hear what you've done in your life, and so shoot it out there, my friend.
My first, when I was at a public library, I went to get a book, and black folks go into the library, so I was arrested. I was expelled from Southern University when I was 18 because of civil rights activities and the writings, things that were illegal, like America, if I pay your taxes, fight wars, you're not going to make me walk around the back door of the courthouse. But I'm a native. I'm an ex-law professor at Rutgers. I'm a Rutgers law graduate. I received a full scholarship to Harvard Law School, but chose Rutgers. I've managed state agencies, Maryland, Illinois, major city agencies in Seattle. I've been a state senator. What I am is seasoned and experienced with 55 years of law, government, political experience. 7 states, 3 major cities, Washington, D.C. I believe in God, country, guns, and life. And I believe that Louisiana needs a pawpaw, a seasoned, experienced person to go to that route and get things back on track. I have common sense, and I have the coconuts to get the job done. big mouth, good heart.
Right up my alley. And just so everybody knows, Mr. Guillory's calling in, and he's lives out in the middle of nowhere, which is great. And I'm sure it's very quiet where he is out there, unlike where I live here in town. So if he cuts out a little bit, it's because the cell reception out there is not perfect. So just so everybody knows. So, Mr. Elbert, I agree with you 100% on all that you said. And I do think that we need a voice of let's say, seasoned reasoning these days.
That is totally Baton Rouge right now. It's a shame. We have a beautiful state, wonderful state, but there's too many problems that are permitted to stop the wonderful place that we have from being the paradise that really should be.
All right, so we got a question coming in. So, of course, we can see the comments. Of course, you won't be able to see them, but I'm going to read this one out to you. So let me find this real quick here. Let's see. Oh, all right. What is Mr. Elbert's opinion on tourism in state parks? Because I think that falls under the purview of Lieutenant Governor. Is that a viable revenue maker for bringing monies in from other states? So do you have any thoughts or ideas yet on the tourism and state park industry in the state of Louisiana?
Yes, sir. I have experience in tourism, and I plan to continue the great work of the present Lieutenant Billy Nungesser. He has set records year after year for bringing people into the state of Louisiana. That wheel does not need to be reinvented. But there are some things that are hurting our tourism, and the amount of violence in our cities, the poor education. We don't have people who are job ready to serve, including in the tourism industry. and of course our bridges and roads are blight in America. Those are the kinds of things that must be addressed to make Louisiana welcoming to other people.
Well, and you bring up a good point about making Louisiana welcoming, because it just seems to me like almost everything we hear about Louisiana, from the rest of the country is we're like last place or almost last. Like, sometimes we might beat Arkansas and things, but or Mississippi maybe, but we seem to be last in everything. And then we got like the crime wave over in Shreveport. I mean, we've got some crime over here in Bossier, but their murder rate over there is like 10 or 12 times per capita what we have right across the river from. We hear about all the shootings and the murders going on in Louisiana and Baton Rouge. Any thoughts or ideas on how we change that perception? I don't even know where we would start to do that.
We have to change the reality first. Police problem, let's just be honest. In Democrat-run cities, they have made it popular to bash the police, to defund the police, handcuff law. We need police out there on the streets getting the guns out of the hands of, getting the drugs off our streets and out of our community. We need more law enforcement. We need effective law enforcement. That's one of the major things that we have to do.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I guess probably 1,000% on that. And we always talk about, and again, I'm going to just unfortunately use Shreveport as an example because it's just right across the river from us. But my contention is, a lot of people say, well, yeah, but we got to have jobs. We got to have jobs. And my contention is that maybe there's more to it than that. And you mentioned the Democrat-run cities. And look, let's be honest, Mr. Elbert, sometimes it's the demographics of the city as much as it is the politics of it. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but it just seems like even if we bring jobs in, I mean, Amazon's supposed to be opening a facility that's supposed to produce like 800 or 1,000 jobs if and when they get that open. But I'm not so sure that just bringing jobs in solves that problem, especially the crime problem. I mean, are these criminals all of a sudden going to turn honest and just go get a regular job?
You're totally right. 60 years ago in the black community, we had high employment. We had the highest church attendance. We had the highest marriage rate in Louisiana. But all of that has gone away. Now we have the lowest employment, the lowest church attendance, and the lowest marriage rate. So 75% of our children, 75% of black children are born to single parents into homes without a daddy. Until we change those basic things, we're not going to get out of rut, violence, disrespect, disobedience that we are stuck in.
Well, and again, Duke, I'm not trying to hog the mic, so chime in whenever. And I don't want to sit here and belabor the race issue too much, but it is a big part of it because, again, we look at the demographics of Shreveport, and Shreveport's, 50+% minority. And I'm not saying that, let's just be honest, I'm not saying white folks are perfect either, and white folks commit plenty of crime too. But I just don't understand, and maybe you can touch on this, is the black folks and a lot of minorities tend to vote lock, stock, and barrel Democrat. And for the last 40 or 50 years, the results that you just talked about, as far as the degradation of the family unit and the marriage unit and all this, coincides with the, popularity or whatever, insistence on the minority blocks of voting with Democrats. How do we change that perception? I know you at one time were a Democrat, maybe raised that way. What changed your mind and convinced you to come over to the Republican Party?
I looked around and saw what was not working. I looked around and saw that across America, every major city was run by Democrats, 90% major cities run by Democrats. But in those cities, there was the highest level of violence, the lowest level of effective education, and the infrastructure in those cities was beginning to crumble. And so I just looking around, I said, this is not working. I got to go and do something else. If we want to save our cities, save our communities, and save our state, really, and save our country, we have to step back years and go back to some of the things that used to work, like the paddle that we were talking about a little earlier.
Yeah, it's amazing how people, I don't know whether you call it forgetting history or distorting history or just remembering history to fit, twisting it to fit their agenda. I want to bring up one more thing, and then, Duke, I promise I'll hush. But, all right, so I'm going to put you on the spot, Mr. Guillory. Do you happen to know who Antoine Duplessis, or maybe it's Duplessis, was and what his significance was in the state of Louisiana? And I'll give you a hint. It's Black History Month, of course.
Was that Duplessis?
Maybe it was Duplessis. I may be pronouncing it wrong, so I apologize if I'm butchering the man's name.
If he was Duplessis, he was a fellow in New Orleans who refused to get off the streetcar because he was sitting in the white section in the front, and he was told to sit in the back and didn't. And it led to Plessy versus Ferguson, major Supreme case that gave us separate but equal.
Well,
one of the great straw laws. If that's
that very well may be true, but I'm going back in time a little further, so maybe this was his grandfather or great-grandfather. So let me give you a little bit of history then for Black History Month. His claim to fame was he was the first black state treasurer of Louisiana. He was also the first Republican state treasurer of Louisiana. And he was in office from 1868 to 1878, so just after the Civil War, the state of Louisiana elected a black Republican as state treasurer, and he helped lead the state out of bankruptcy, or helped eliminate a lot of the debt. Let me put it that way.
Yes, indeed. And that's the same time when Louisiana elected its first and only black lieutenant, right close to the 1880s. He's from Appaloosa. His name's going to come to me in just a moment. But
interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Republicans and their contributions to our state.
Now I also have to add in that first black Republican state treasurer was also one of his other claims to fame. He was also the largest, or one of the largest, if not the largest, black slave owner in Louisiana, and arguably in most of the South at that point in time. He had had slaves for 20 or 30 years.
When we talk about, one of the things that people really don't talk about, and shame, in St. Landry Parish, there were more black slave owners than in any other county in the entire Confederation. It was a system, and black folks were on both sides of that system. Of course, there were more black slaves than black slave owners, but it's a fact that we should never leave out when we discuss it.
Yes, sir. I agree. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier with our history and having experienced people and all that. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to throw that out there.
And this is one of the things that I appreciate. about Elbert Guillory, and this is the way Elbert Guillory has always been since I had the pleasure of first meeting him. There's no issue jaded. He's an open book, and you can talk about everything. And Rex, you and I, we talk to folks, and we talk about politics, we talk about social things, and we have friends, and we've had debates and discussions why it is that it seems like that it's difficult for Republicans, and I'm going to say this specifically white Republicans, to go into black communities and have conversations and talk about all of this. How is it that we can't do that, accomplish that, and why are we unsuccessful? Because in reality, we want the same things. We do. But, and Mr. Elbert, maybe you can, shed some light on there, because there's a lot of folks watching, because it's like we talk about Bossier and Shreveport. What happens in Shreveport, it affects us in Bossier, and we need to be, concerned with what happens over there and trying to raise their boat as well too.
It's so to see the division that has taken place in this country. We have black folk who are afraid to go in white neighborhoods, white folk who are afraid to go in the black neighborhood, and it's ridiculous. We are all in the same canoe. If the canoe sinks, if the white part of the canoe sinks, the black part's going down. If the black part of the canoe sinks, the white part of the canoe is going down. We have to really join hands and get rid of the divisions. But those divisions just didn't fall out of heaven. Those divisions were created by and pushed and exacerbated by people who really want to destroy America. And one way to destroy us is to divide us and then conquer us.
Yes,
yeah,
there's no doubt about that. So let's fast forward and if you don't mind, I want to kind of move back to, if you were elected as lieutenant governor, some of the positive things that we can try to project about the state of Louisiana. And of course, Duke's big into duck hunting. I enjoy going every now and then. I'm big into bass fishing. We've got tons of natural resources and things in this state. How do we seem to promote that better? It seems like, at least I know in the bass fishing world, tournament bass fisherman world, it seems like Texas gets all the thunder right over there because they're able to manage their lakes better. And even Arkansas is known for having beautiful lakes and great boat ramps, things like that. But any ideas on how we can, help promote the wildlife part of Louisiana, maybe more than we are? What can we do to attract some of these organizations, to come in and have some of these tournaments that generate millions of dollars in the community? Any ideas on that?
I've also wondered how we could attract more hunters, say, our quail, our duck hunting, second to none. Our fishing, of course. We do need to be able to attract more sportsmen. We used to be called Sports Paradise. We need to attract more sportsmen, more hunters, more people who just like to hike and walk through the wilderness, which is beautiful in Louisiana. And we must sell that. We must. There are some large farms and large areas, wooded areas. We have to be able to attract more people to those wooded areas. Make some RV park available, spaces available, tent available to those kinds of folks who like to come down and hang out with us.
Yeah, Mr. Guillory, one of the things I would point out to you, talking about the sportsman's paradise, and this last session in the legislature, I went down, and one of the things that I am passionate about is waterfowl hunting. Historically, Louisiana was known as, I mean, we were the place to go to duck hunt. But, there's a lot of things have changed, and we don't have waterfowl migrating to Louisiana like we historically do. We're having, you know, I mean, I'm trying to use the right word to describe it, but we're having, you know, Gulf Coast loss at a rate that is just mind boggling. And we hear from our state government that we're doing everything that we can, but it seems to me that we're not doing enough. And this past legislative session, I went down when they tried to amend the bills on, or well, they amended the bills on hunting license and stuff. And as you know, having been a duck hunter in Louisiana, they increased the price of the duck stamp or duck hunting license. But they historically have taken almost all of that money and they literally were sending it out of the country. Well, I had a very simple solution to, kind of address that issue, which was to take our monies that we're spending on duck license and spend that money in our own state. Don't send it to the prairies up there. We're having more habitat loss than anywhere else. Common sense. And would you know, Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries fought me tooth and nail. And you don't have to be a hunter. I mean, you're going to be the lieutenant governor. Every bit of habitat that we lose, that's less migratory waterfowl and less habitat that things are going to come to, and less tourism that people that just want to come bird watch are going to come to see. And I don't know. I hope that if you're elected, that you will really do what you can to try to influence state government to care, in my opinion, to care more about our state than it obviously than they care about some other states or countries for that matter in that case.
I make a promise. I've spent all of the years in politics and law and government, and although tourism will be my primary function, because I have all that experience in law and politics and government, having spent time in the state Senate, spent time in the state House of Representatives, I am going to be very active. I will be very involved in the setting of Louisiana's policies and the passing of Louisiana's laws. I will have a legislative staff, and I will be down there. Like I said, I got a big mouth and a good heart and a lot of experience. I will have my mouth involved in the setting of the policies that have to be changed. I'm going to be a very, very active lieutenant governor.
Well, that is music to my ears, and I got to tell you, I am hopeful that you prevail, and I really hope to see you get up here in Northwest Louisiana. I think you've got a few events scheduled, and too often it seems like that you're known around the Republican circles, and maybe not out just kind of in the regular Joe circles. I mean, spend some time up here. There's a lot of voters up here, and I can tell you that your message is a message that appeals to a lot of folks up here. But they've got to see and hear it out of your voice. And you want to come up here one day, I'll put you in the car and I'll ride you around. So come on.
I accept, and I'm going to definitely do that. Too often North Louisiana is left out of Louisiana politics. North Louisiana has been the stepchild of Louisiana. Not anymore. Not with me. Every single one of us Louisiana folks deserves to be heard. Our policies deserve to be advocated, and that's what I'll be doing.
Okay, wait a minute, Rex. He said something. I got to follow up.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So, Saints fan or a Cowboys fan?
I played football. I was a 230-pound linebacker, although I'm only 5'9". but I ran the 40 in 4:37, which is quite quick.
Yes, sir.
I loved football. Football was a big part of my life. I almost played football at Rutgers, but the law school team would not let me play.
Wow.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, football has become a different sport. About 2 years ago, I left football and turned my back on it. The fellows who were there they were disrespecting my country. They were disrespecting my flag. I wanted them to leave and go somewhere where they would be satisfied. But since they wouldn't us, I left them. So I'm not a Saints fan, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I used to be a big Oakland Raiders fan. Nope, no more. No more.
I can appreciate what you're saying and I know the time and what you're talking about because I think the majority of the country felt exactly the same way that you felt, and you're right. I don't know that enough has changed with professional athletes in general. I'll say it that way. But up here in Louisiana, there's a lot. It is actually a big deal because we've got so many of those Texas folks over here that they love their Cowboys, and we got the other half is the Saints fan, so it's kind of an inside joke up here between all of those folks.
Well, I look forward to the day when it returns to football, but football has to return to me first. And
Amen to that.
am American.
Well, Mr. Elbert, I want to, for all of the viewers that are watching and the ones that'll see this video over the next couple of days, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on. And I got to tell you, I absolutely appreciate your honesty and your willingness to talk about pretty much any subject and just shoot everybody straight about it.
There's not enough shooting in politics. Not enough common sense, not enough honesty, and not enough coconuts. I mean, not enough courage to just stand up and do what's right. It doesn't seem to be that hard to just do what's right. That's what we were taught kids.
Yes, sir. Well, I can tell you've won over a few boats in South Bossier and North Bossier for sure. We've got some folks that live down around the Elm Grove area, and they're singing your praises in the comments. I know you can't see it, but they're singing your praises in the comments. So I'd say just keep doing what you're doing, and you are definitely a model person to follow.
I thank you very much. I enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to folks in Louisiana.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the disconnect button, but you're welcome to come back on the show anytime if you got, some topic or subject that comes up and you want to be able to get the message out. Just give me or Duke a holler, and we'll be glad to have you back on.
I promise, and I'm looking forward to the ride round that you promised.
Hey, give me a call, and when you're going to be here, and we're going to get in the car, and we're going to make the rounds, my friend.
Let's do it.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
You
Mr.
too.
Elbert.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
He hasn't changed none.
No, he's the real deal. I mean, I hate to use that expression because it gets overused sometimes, but we're sitting there having a discussion about races and as far as minorities and white folks and all that I would argue you just can't have with a lot of folks.
I mean, and that's the thing. You and I talked about it. We literally, there's no questions, there was no plans for the discussion and how it was going to go with him because you don't have to. He's an open book. Whatever you want to talk about, you just throw it out there. He's all in. So many politicians or people who want to be politicians, they're what, not trained, but they're polished to
Right.
avoid things and to not talk about things. Not him. You pose a question to him, you're going to have to change the subject because he's going to continue keeping on talking about it.
Yeah, and I just want to point out the picture that I have of Mr. Elbert here in the show graphics is his profile picture on Facebook. That's where I grabbed it. So he is absolutely a true supporter of the Second Amendment with good finger control off the trigger there, I might add. So that picture right there to me just kind of shows everything about him. He is not afraid to stand for what he believes in and how he was raised and brought up. And I would again agree that we might need to kind of go back to a little bit of that generational time.
Yeah, and I don't know that he said it or that it was covered, but I'm pretty confident. I don't know what branch of service, but I'm pretty confident that he was a veteran as well too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think either one of us actually asked him, but we can look up on his bio. And I want to encourage everybody. I put it in the comments, and then we'll move on. His website is Elbert Guillory's America. Of course, there's no apostrophe in it. Just ElbertGuillory'sAmerica.com. And of course, you can just go to Facebook and search for Elbert Guillory, and you'll pull up his Facebook page as well. So we would encourage you to go check him out a little bit more. Listen to some more of his videos he's got because they're all pretty darn good.
Yeah, without a doubt. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's a good night to use our infamous buzzword of absolutely.
Absolutely. So
Next.
now, did you know that there might have been some news on the COVID front in Northwest Louisiana tonight?
Well, I heard that there may have been some sort of action or something going on, so tell us a little more about it.
Well, I don't know this to be a fact, but it may be the case that the Bossier Parish school system has taken an action and done something that hadn't been done in any other parish across the state.
Really? And
I'm not,
I'm going to get
I'm,
the video ready, so go ahead, set it up.
yeah, now I'm not 100% that they're the first, but I've got some fact checkers, and not from Zuckerberg, but I got some fact checkers that are doing a little bit of homework and trying to see that if that's accurate. But off the cuff, they think that an action by the Bossier Parish School Board tonight may in fact be the first parish that actually did something. But I mean, I don't know. And I hate to say but because they actually did something. I mean, but it's how do you get around this negative? You keep saying trying to turn over this new leaf, this positive leaf.
New spirit of positivity. I'm coining that phrase.
Yeah, that. I can't even utter that out of my mouth. But yeah, they took some action, and I don't want to take away from them, but did you see the Project Veritas report today or yesterday?
I heard about it, and right before the show, I kind of briefly listened to some of it, but I didn't listen to all of it. But what didn't they do like an expose type deal or whatever with the
No, they had a whistleblower,
right?
In either state government or a nurse within the health system or Department of Health and Hospitals, or that. And I think this person was like an auditor. They actually would audit. That was their job or something. And I may be butchering it. I may totally be butchering it, but I think that was the case. But they called Project Veritas and were basically being a witness to the fact that the COVID numbers and the reporting was falsified or so like people would go in with a sprained ankle and they would test them for COVID. And if they test positive, then they would claim them as being a COVID case.
Imagine that.
Not coming in for a sprained ankle, but coming in as a COVID case.
Well, what's that old famous saying in politics? Follow the money.
And we got an email, Rex. I don't know if you saw it, but Julie Ferris had sent a letter demanding an audit and investigation. We don't have that built into the if we could go to that, that would have been good. But she did. And there's a lot of people getting bent about it. Now I know the Bossier Parish School Board didn't have any idea about the fact that this stuff was going to start pouring out, that, you're going to have a whistleblower coming forward describing that the state may or may not have been blowing numbers up or directing to have numbers blowed up. And, on top of that, last show on Bossier Watch, you and I, John Hopkins University, and that study, the study that studied all the studies and said that all of these jackwagon actions that everybody's been coming to these school boards, including the governor's attorneys, telling them, "Oh, you can't not do what the state's saying because you're going to kill people or whatever." Well, as it turns out, all these recommendations that they've been giving to these folks, those recommendations have killed more people than what the COVID would have killed in the first place.
So, like the famous quote from the Tremors movie that I'm so fanatical about with Burt Gummer, basically you're telling me the government took something that should be so simple and they just complicated it.
Yeah, without a doubt. But it goes back to having a brain and common sense and thinking for yourself. I mean, a ton of people were sounding off, telling a lot of these elected officials, look, something doesn't smell right, think for yourself. And so many people, uh, uh, mass Nazis, and getting off on it, getting
Yeah,
off on it. Well,
well,
all
that
these, all
that
these
turns into a
people,
religion itself.
yeah, all these people that ignored the warning signs and all this stuff, and were so hell bent. Where are they? Are they going to, now that the truth is starting to come out? Are they going to? I'm wondering about all these elected officials. Are you going to step up and you're going to say, you know what? Yeah, they bluffed me. Yeah, they snookered me. I was wrong. Are you going to own it? Are you going to own it? And it's just like the election and the election fraud and the vote stuff. More and more starting to come out. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if all the election deniers, are they going to come out and admit it and acknowledge it? They're not. And are they going to remove themselves from office and politics? No, they're not. They should, but they're not.
Wait,
It'll be just whatever the next scam is.
are you saying there's the potential I may have to utter the words "I was wrong"?
Well, I wouldn't make you do that. I mean, at
Oh,
least
I will.
I
I'll.
would warm the crow up for you.
Look, if it turns out, and then we'll swing back to the actual Louisiana stuff. But yeah, look, if it turns out that there was substantial fraud and elections were actually stolen, and it was enough, which there should be none of that, and it was enough to actually swing the election, I'll absolutely say I was wrong. But I still go back to my contention that we have a problem with and I'm just going to put this as bluntly as I can, with the liberals breeding faster than the conservatives are. We just assume everybody thinks like we do. And that's not necessarily, just straight agree with Republicans all the time. But Duke and I both don't hide the fact that we're fairly conservative and, we're both Republicans, even though we'll call the Republican Party out as well. But look, the fact of the matter is, in the areas of concentration, when you see the blue dots, they're repopulating and bringing in the immigrants and all the things that they're doing to expand their party much faster than we are. That's our problem. Go back and look at the historical voting trend. There was a little bit of anomaly in 2004, but even then, W didn't win that re-election very much. I forget, a couple of percentage points or whatever it was over Kerry, but other than that slight spike, the trend since the 90s has been to go blue. We have a problem in the Republican Party as much or more than we have on the voting side, even though I agree that the vote count, of course, is very important. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Do we want to watch the school board stuff here?
Mandy Maddox made a correction, or I say she's just helping us out. Nurse turned inpatient utilization management for United Healthcare. I think that was kind of the title of the whistleblower, the Project Veritas whistleblower, that's kind of spilling the beans about the inflated numbers that we've seen or is being reported as going across Louisiana. Everybody was talking about it and saying that was the case. And if you'll remember looking at some of those legislative hearings, that doctor down there, and Eccles had crossed them, and even Cream Puff Cruz, remember him going after him as well too. They were all squeezing him, and he was squishy on the numbers. Never, never really gave them a direct answer, but it seems like the truth is starting to come out now.
Yeah,
So anyway,
and
yeah.
yeah, we'll do the school board stuff first. I want to address one quick comment. So Kaylee Larkin, who has been an avid show watcher and commenter and all that, says we also use Dominion voting systems. Don't blame breeding, blame the voter registrations. That's partially true, but as a former person who was on the Bossier Parish Elections Supervisors Committee, blah, for what that's worth, I know the systems and how they're set up and what we're running currently. I don't agree with what the state was trying to move towards, but it's not a problem with voter registrations in the state of Louisiana. We have other issues here for the vast majority of it. Let me rephrase that. All right. We ready for the school board?
Yeah, let's show what the Bossier Parish School Board may have been the first school system in the state to do.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start at about the 610, 611 mark. So here we go.
As a starting point for my motion, I would like to approve that document with the following amendments. Where in the complete document, there is a requirement of wearing a face mask or face covering to be changed to well-fitting face coverings, recommended but not mandatory, except the section named transportation, because this is due to a presidential executive order for them to wear masks on the bus. The second part of that is under the subsection household close contacts and LHSAA return to play. The parent guardian choice will apply to quarantining or remaining in attendance. So for those of you in attendance tonight that didn't get the document that we're working from, I'll just kind of break it down to what this motion is meaning tonight. It means that if you have COVID, you basically stay home for 5 days, or symptoms, you stay home for 5 days. It's the parent choice to return on day sick if you're symptom free, with the recommendation to wear a well-fitting face covering, but it's not mandated. If you are close contacted and contacted from the school, whether from school or from home, the parent has the choice on the student returning to school, and once again, a well-fitting face covering is recommended but not mandated. So this applies to students and employees. Any questions?
All right, let me stop it there.
I'd like to
Keep
make a
going.
motion that we move forward with accepting
Yeah,
this,
that's
I
good.
have
That
a
was the
motion.
meat and potatoes of it.
All right, so
And
decipher this for us, dude, because I think you've studied a little bit more than I have today, but because this was just a few hours ago, everybody. But basically, is we're kind of going to the way we used to treat it when people were sick. Is that basically the direction we're headed in, with the exception of buses?
that's basically it. If you're sick, you stay home. If you're not sick, you come to school, and that's it.
Well, imagine that.
It's common sense.
So we actually have to say something positive and good about the Bossier Parish School Board tonight. And look, I want to give them, as a side note, notice we could hear the audio much better than we could the last time we ran one of their meetings. So kudos to them for also getting the audio fixed and fixing the COVID mandate.
Now, it was obvious that this was a business meeting because, the fact that, one, the audio was fixed and you could hear what they were saying, and two, and I ain't watched all the video, I could be wrong, but there was something else missing at this meeting.
Well, let's get to that, but wait a minute. What building were they in? Now that I look at that, is that the same one that they usually meet in?
I can't tell. Yeah, that's got to be the same one. Yeah, that's it. But it's just the
Okay.
camera's bright.
Maybe it's
That's
a,
all
yeah,
it
it's
is.
a camera.
Yeah, the
angle. Okay.
lighting.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. But look, at the beginning of the meeting, there was no pom-poms.
No pom-poms
They
and cheerleader?
There was nothing to cheer about tonight. This vote passed unanimously. I can't believe that we didn't know this was not going to happen, and we didn't have no cheerleading.
And your lovely wife, Kara, says there was no camera in the audience. Yes, the same building. Okay, just look different, Kara, but yeah, y'all are right. Different camera angle. All right, but no cheerleading out there. So you mean when they announced this new policy, and I guess they voted on it and passed it, they didn't have the cheerleader stand up and do her little dissertation and hoorah, hooray about it?
No, there was no cheerleading. But on a note, I said passed unanimous. there were actually, you see some empty seats there, right?
Yeah, did they pull a sneaky one and wait till somebody was iced in? Maybe they couldn't get there because 220 was closed.
Well, I don't know, but there were 3 members absent to my understanding. 2 of them was Miss Darby, the other was Mr. Wiggins, and the other was Miss Tammy Smith. 2 Democrats, 1 Republican.
Interesting. Well, okay, so
Well, the why were they not there?
well,
Did they not agree that what was fixing to happen?
well, you would think if they didn't agree, they would have the coconuts enough, male or female, I suppose, to sit there and vote no.
At least be on record. But rather than be on record, you just don't even show and vote.
Well,
I mean,
you know how some of these I hate to say some, how a lot of these politicians are. They just pull those little, to use my favorite word, shenanigans. But hey, in my new spirit of positivity, maybe they got lucky because the idiots at the DOTD for the state closed 220 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at 37 degrees. I'm still not happy about that. Okay.
well, now on that note, there was some interesting commentary about the school board. What do you think the discussion at the school board was about whether or not to close down for Snowmageddon 22?
Well, it may have been. Now, hold on just a second. I'm going to put up a comment from David Crockett. David Crockett says, Tammy wrote to me and said she supports the change.
Well, how about that? I wish she would have been there to vote for it.
Yeah, and been, at least on the record officially about it. Julie Fair says this is a victory for kids and parents. So I guess, again, we need to encourage everybody to take some action. Email, text, write, call, whatever, your school board members, and let them know that you are happy, whatever, anyway, that they have done this change and actually voted for it. Good for them, finally.
Yeah, a lot of folks would say, well, we wish they would have done it before now, but you know what? You need to tell them when they do right. You need to tell them that. They need to be able to hear it. And I think a hat tip to Dennis Bamberg and Adam Bass, because I'm pretty confident they were the ringleaders on pushing this. I mean, yeah, we would have liked it a little sooner, but again, credit where credit's due. I think they were, the meat and potatoes behind this movement.
Yeah, and I want to address, Kaylee Larkin had a comment that, let me scroll back up, but basically that somebody was able to mail in vote and early, here we go. And so I know I'm doing a little side deal here, but she said, why do myself and others early vote independently with people who someone had already mail-in voted for them? All right, so Kaylee, here's what I can tell you for sure, at least in Bossier Parish, which I have direct experience with. They do have checks and balances on that, and the likelihood that your vote was counted twice is very, 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 very close to zero. And you can always call Stephanie Adgie's office up there with the Registrar of Voters and discuss that with her, and she'll be glad to double check it and explain it to you. They're very helpful ladies up there in that office. Okay, sorry, dude. Back to this.
So wait a minute. I just got a message from somebody that said Mitch didn't feel like they should cancel school tomorrow because of Snowmageddon 22 because he was worried about a loss of instructional time.
You almost made me spit my tea out all over my keyboard and microphone.
No, did
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
did he really did he really say that? Did he really? I gotta know.
So he was fine with the loss of instructional time for the last 2 years, but now he's concerned about it. Which is it, Mitch?
But
You
you're
can't
being
have it
paid-
both
you're-
ways.
Yeah, but you're being paid for COVID, but for the ice storm, you're not getting paid.
Oh, well,
Right?
that's true. Well, maybe not. I don't
No.
know. Are there federal reimbursements there's got to be some kind of grant program for that, surely, somewhere. I mean, it's our federal government. They literally have a reimbursement program for everything. All right, let me circle back again. Kaylee, if you feel that there was fraud in the Bossier Parish election system, then let me strongly encourage you to reach out to Stephanie Adgie's office and discuss that with them, because they will absolutely look into it. I'll be glad to call and let them know that, hey, we've got somebody that says that they think there was some voter fraud. They take that very, very seriously. Reach out to them and then report back to us what they said. Okay, and we have more YouTube trolls. This is like playing whack-a-mole.
Well, I got a message from somebody confirming or denying about Mitch and his comment. I think I'm thinking, if I'm understanding this correctly, I have a follow-up question that he did in fact say something to that effect, but there's something another to it. I'm waiting to hear, and then we're going to report it. But so,
all right,
he did say something.
Well, all right, so do we want to shift to the Project Veritas stuff, and then once you get a confirmation or whatever, we'll, of course, like we usually do, go back to the other rabbit hole?
Yeah, I think we should. So let's play that video real quick, if you can gin that up, because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so this is about a minute long. I think this is probably a slightly edited version of that video. I honestly hadn't watched the whole thing yet, so bear with us, folks. We're gonna roll with this one.
I'm like, he would have never known he had COVID if he hadn't gotten gunshot wounds.
Tell us your name, your title, where you work.
My name is Jean Stagg. I am a nurse was a nurse with United Healthcare, Community and State Plan of Louisiana.
Why come to Project Veritas?
Well, I've been seeing some cases come over that were coded as COVID-19 that I felt should not have been coded as COVID-19. So that may be showing some higher numbers as well. They did test positive for COVID, but they went in for other reasons, but they are still being counted in our numbers.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. That was great.
When did you first notice this trend?
I would say it's around June or July. I started seeing some cases which should not have been COVID, in my opinion. I've had a couple where it was like scheduled vaginal deliveries or car wrecks. That wasn't their reason for going to the hospital. The only way they're going to show up on my census is if COVID is their primary diagnosis. I don't want to say it's fraud and abuse, but I mean, should I be reporting stuff like that or just letting it go?
We are finding, people as we work them up who are COVID positive, and they had no inclination to even know they might be positive. That's never my number one code in that situation.
And I thought that they got reimbursed at Medicare rate instead of Medicaid rate.
They do.
I mean, Medicare rate would be significantly higher than Medicaid rate.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
This is actually a health plan advisory. They have amended it multiple times.
Follow the money.
This is basically telling them that all utilization management for all medical hospitalizations, including but not limited to initial service authorizations and concurrent reviews, must be suspended. Now, this is not specific to COVID-19. This is every single hospital admission. We're not allowed to do medical necessity review. So it gives the hospitals free rein to admit anything they want, code it however they want, keep the patients in the hospital as long as they want, and we're not going to deny anything.
Wow. Now, let me address Kaylee Larkin again and then switch back to this. So, Kaylee, maybe I read that wrong. So I'll go back and review the comments that you put up there. And again, forgive me if I did read it wrong, because the comments are scrolling and I'm trying to, help produce the show and all that. Okay. You know what I see that's very, very interesting about this Project Veritas video?
What is that?
She didn't hide her face. She didn't hide who she was. So either she's correct or she's just opened herself up for one heck of a lawsuit. One of the two.
Well, you saw that was an audio recording from, and I was reading the fine print, Dr. Moriel, if I read that correctly, and basically they just acknowledged that, of course, we're going to bill it as
at the
Medicare,
higher rate. Yeah,
it'll be the higher rate, and she showed the document, giving the hospitals the ability to choose how they coded it so that they could bill more. This whole thing ain't been nothing but a money tree.
Yeah. Follow the money. Here we go again.
That's all it's been. And okay, Bossier Parish School Board, everybody I mean, that got paid. Well, I mean, are you going to give the money back because it was fraud? Are you going to complain?
Well, I guess the next question is, what's going to be done about this? Reporting it and get the word out there is one thing, but I suppose, I'm guessing it would fall under the Attorney General's office or maybe the state auditor's office. I don't know who would have jurisdiction or whatever the correct term is over that.
I would suspect that ultimately, I mean, the hospitals intentionally, coding things different, but if Department of Health and Hospitals gave them the permission to code things how they wanted to code things, does it fall back on them or does it fall back on state government? I think it falls back on state government.
Well, maybe they were just legally getting more money from the feds. I mean, again, it's back to the money thing. Yeah,
so I got an update. And
okay.
Basically, they confirmed that, yes, Mitch Downey said what he said. It says something to the effect of, we've been talking about instructional time a lot, so we want the kids to be in school if possible. And that basically it was just a backhanded comment, towards probably Dennis and Adam Bass. And they said that he seemed serious about it. So wasn't no joke. He was serious about it. So as long as they're getting paid for COVID, great, but if it's going to be an ice storm, then who cares?
Let them slip and slide and go to the ER, but we're not worried about COVID or whatever.
Let's put them on the road. We ain't going to get Bosep, Gosep, or Ian Snellgrove to talk about the hazards of a bus sliding off the bridge in the river. We're not going to have no conversations about that.
Right. Very interesting. Well, I'll have to go back and watch the whole school board meeting later on or in the morning over coffee or something like that and see what all else they talked about. If there's anything.
Maybe the governor's attorney, he should seek counsel with him. Oh, wait a minute. Duck season's closed, so he can't do that.
Yeah.
That's
and
all right.
I want to bring up Charles Rawson made a point, because this is Louisiana Watch, so we've been talking some about Bossier, obviously, but expanding out a little bit, that there's been calls for an audit for the city of Shreveport. There's been some shenanigans going on over there with the mayor and the was he the chief financial officer or whatever the fellow was, that he either quit or they forced into retirement or whatever that scenario was over there.
Yeah, and he's got him that good lawsuit going against them. I'm just wondering if Bossier may have some audits in their future. I know that we kind of
not to beat a dead amigo, but there was one of the three amigos that ran on that campaign promise. Well, auditing Manchac, which in effect would be somewhat kind of auditing Bossier. So maybe we'll eventually get one. I don't know. But you know what? Wait a minute. I want to bring up a point. That point was brought up.
Can we trust the auditors, Rex? Because they're going to call Baton Rouge to do the auditing. Can you trust the legislative auditor's office?
Well, and look, a lot of times the legislative auditors, at least I'll use the Cypress District as an example, because an independent audit, a lot of people were clamoring for that for the Cypress District, and I would kind of agree with it. But they use Travis Moorhead. I think probably city council used him too. I know the police jury was, and his credentials are impeccable. And honestly, I think they are, but that doesn't mean we accept that just because the government entity that needs to have a more intensive audit says that he's impeccable. So the challenge there is they're going to say, we have to submit an audit report to the state auditor's office every year, and we publish our budget. And let me remind everybody, the budget and the actual P&Ls are not the same thing.
Well, and the thing is it's not just Shreveport. It's not just Bossier. I mean, case in point, Faraday, Louisiana. Faraday, you remember that?
Yeah, the state shut them down. They have no police department in Faraday now. They ran out of funding. Or the state cut off literally shut them down.
Yeah, and it's going to be mind blowing if you see something similar that pops up here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And then, well, I don't know that things would go that far in Bossier, but I wouldn't be surprised to see if there was a fair audit. You might see some frog marching going on.
You might. There's no telling. I'm trying to scroll through the comments here real quick. Okay, so yeah, our next mayoral candidate and possible mayor, Jeremy Gallman, friend of mine, says Bossier City will have an audit soon. It's coming. We'll see.
Yeah, but not before Sportran has those extra bus stops. No way
Right.
we're going to have them bus stops. I mean,
Yeah.
the mayor had already agreed to them, right? Or wait, no, wasn't the mayor, right? Or was it the mayor?
It all gets so
I guess
confusing.
I guess we really don't know.
Right.
Maybe we'll never know. It's kind of like the 8 digits. Nobody knows, and nobody will ask.
Okay. Do we have anything else exciting coming up on a regional or statewide level? Anything anybody comment, folks, and let us know if you've got something you want us to kind of let everybody know about.
The hot and upcoming thing right now is reapportionment, redistricting. That is the big thing going on. I mean, probably there's blood on the floors in the Capitol. We haven't been too in tune on that. Robert Wright offered to kind of stay on top of that and give us a report. And
Wait a minute. Radio
haven't-
personality is in
No.
Robert Air. Oh, the other Robert Wright.
The other one, he likes to, make people think he's that guy, but he doesn't really do that. But people just make an assumption. It's not the same.
Or people like me make fun of. But anyway, Robert Wright's a good friend of ours. The other Robert Wright, Robert H. Wright.
Yeah. Well, we like to pick on him anyway, but both of them are good guys. Anyway, reapportionment is happening, and there's always been some folks that want to see Congressional District 4 and the Congressional District over there in Monroe that Julia Letlow is in. They would love to see a North Louisiana Congressional District where Monroe and Shreveport-Bossier are all a part. But if you're in North Louisiana, that's not in the best interest of North Louisiana because that gives you one seat at the table, representation in Congress, when at least with having another congressperson, along the northern corridor, that gives you two for North Louisiana. Let's face it, everybody north of I-10, you're Yankees. It's just the way it is. The more we can have north I-10, the better.
Yeah, we probably need to do a show dedicated or half of a show dedicated to redistricting because I'm not 100% clear on how all of that is orchestrated.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it, and I would probably butcher it pretty good. But for the most part, my understanding is when it comes to, say, like the legislature, the House kind of divvies up what the Senate districts will be, and the Senate divvies up kind of what the House districts will be. And of course, then they throw them back and forth at each other, and then they all fight over them. And then finally, they come to something that they agree on. They send it to the governor, and then the governor will kind of disagree with all of it, and then they start over and do it again until they can all come to an agreement.
Back to that government taking something relatively simple. So you mean there's no formula if the population in this town or municipality or whatever is X, route the line here. So it's literally they just kind of make it up based on population.
Yeah, based on population, but let me give you an example. Right now, Senate District 36 covers Bossier Parish, Webster, Claiborne, I think some of Bienville and Red River. Due to population shifts, I mean, you're seeing 36 shrink considerably, and I think it's potentially going to shrink to the point to where Bossier would be, solely Senate District 36. But what you've got to understand is you've got part of Barrow Peacock's district that comes over into Bossier. And for Bossier Parish, that might not be the best thing because you've got essentially one senator from one parish to represent you. Whereas before you had, even though Barrow didn't have a majority of his district that was in Bossier, he did have to represent Bossier. So you had two senators that were responsible for, trying to do the best or get the most interest for Bossier itself. And I've been hearing rumors on that one that's kind of the way that's going. Greg Tarver, he's term limited. Rumors about him going to run for mayor. I don't know. Flip a coin at this point. If I had to bet, I'd bet. I think if Greg Tarver throws his name in the hat for the mayor of Shreveport, I think he takes the air out of the room, and it'll end up being a Tarver, Perkins match is where that'll end up. I may be wrong.
Well, you absolutely may be on to something, and I would argue that Perkins is definitely going to get a run for his money and probably lose, because unless he finds some pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, he's not very popular among people that actually voted for him and were cheerleading for him the first go-round. But who knows? We'll see. Who knows how that goes over there.
Kaylee Larkin, you're right on Julia Letlow. She was certainly not Luke. She was never, she was never a politician. That wasn't her thing. That was Luke. And, Luke I would say Luke would have probably handled some votes a little better. But I suspect Julia Letlow is going to have a challenger, and she's probably going to have a run for her money. She got the pass this last time, but probably not this time.
I'm going to have to turn off comments on YouTube. Interesting comment there above the YouTube span. Some of you may or may not be able to see it. So Tim Euler, expand a little bit. Perkins isn't running, as in Adrian Perkins isn't running? Let me put that comment up there. So give us a little more details on that. I hadn't heard that one yet, but may entirely be true.
Well, he may not run after Amazon finishes construction and then never opens, and or they start shipping in all of the foreign labor to work over there. I would suspect if that happens, the city of Shreveport and folks over there probably even more so are not going to want to vote for him.
Wait a minute. Did I just hear you correctly? Did you just say that the Amazon facility that's under construction right now may not open?
Well, have I not shared that with anybody? Have I not told that?
I don't remember if we mentioned it in the last show. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I was saying it in jest, if it does open. So
okay, well, look. One of my
this might be breaking news here, folks.
Well, I haven't heard it on Robert and Aaron. If you were going to hear it on some news, you would have heard it from Robert and Aaron. I haven't heard them talk about it, and I haven't heard anybody else come talk about it. Come to think of it, so yeah, we're breaking news here. So the word on the street, and what I am getting is that the Amazon building over there, it'll get completed. The construction will get completed, but it will never open. And there's multiple problems. Some components of the, I don't know, maybe it's their conveyor belts. Maybe they can't get their conveyor belts from China or something. I don't know. But some components that they're not going to be able to get, as well as a problem with labor, and therefore it's not going to open. And if it does open, it'll open with a lot of foreign labor. But what I'm told as it stands right now, it's not going to open. Construction will get completed, and then it'll never open.
So we're just going to have a really big building sitting over there, potentially doing nothing. Like a lot of the other buildings in Shreveport, except they're just not brand spanking new.
Well, it begs the question, and we would have to go back. We haven't weighed into the Shreveport politics enough to know, but what were the money that was dangled out there by city government to get the thing there? How did that come to be? How did that happen?
Yeah. You and I certainly hadn't dug into that, but yeah, what kind of incentives were given? Where did the money come from? Are they ever going to finish the I-49 corridor deal? What is going on over there?
I don't know. But
no, here's an interesting one. So again, our good friend Kaylee put a comment up, says word on her street was Shreveport Mayor Adrian Perkins needs to be out of office before the deal can finish. That's interesting. Maybe pissed off Jeff Bezos and company.
I don't know. Mandy Maddox says Duke's sitting on some hot tea. I swear, Mandy, I just forgot about it. I mean, you got to understand there is so much crap comes flowing our way. But yeah,
Oh,
that
yes.
one did that one. I've had that one for probably a week and a half.
We should have led with that. Now I'm going to have to cut out a little video segment and do a breaking news and or breaking rumor possibility. Let me rephrase that, since we don't have a confirmation. It just right.
Well, wait a minute. Why don't we wait and just see how long it's going to take Bozier now watching the show to put it on and to break it?
Yeah, and we'll keep it buried. They'll have to watch the video, watch the show, watch the replay or whatever to actually find that.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, we'll see. Of course, Tim Mueller says Shreveport is going conservative in 2020. We'll see. Kara says no crackers. And Brandy says Perkins will be gone. We will make sure of it. There's a lot of people that don't like him.
It seems so. So what did
All
everybody
right.
think? Did y'all like Elbert Guillory? What do you think? Is he our lieutenant governor? I'm wondering, Rex. You know what we did not ask him?
What's that?
We didn't ask him about the Cypress District.
Well, he may not have heard about that, but we could have tied it into the state park situation because, the lieutenant governor's has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I did like what he said, that he did intend to weigh in on the legislature, and he did intend to try to weigh in on things with some staff there. Nungesser slides around the legislature and puts his finger on some things down there. He does, and he's kind of under the radar. I suspect Elbert wouldn't be under the radar.
I don't think that's his style either.
Yeah, I don't either.
And I think if I remember reading up, he was a two-term state senator in the past.
Tim Mueller says invite Mayor Perkins on the show.
Well, we can reach out to his office, and he's going to say, who?
He would say who, and he is more than welcome. I mean, look, we have invited Democrat, people that are way left of us on the show. In fact, the school board or the Bessie race. Remember the Bessie race? And there was the Democrat candidate in the Bessie race, and she refused to come on, do a show or participate in the debate. And we were going to be as fair and balanced as could possibly be, but she didn't. And I think the only Democrat, that was left that actually came on the show was in the council race in South Bossier with Brian Hammonds and Lumberdale.
Yeah, Darren Ashley.
Ashley, great guy.
Yeah.
And in fact, I got to tell you, all three of those guys were really good, and I think would have done a good job.
Yeah, and Tim's got another comment. It says, set up a Shreveport mayor debate on Louisiana Watch. We'll probably may try to do that, Tim, once everybody's declared, who's running and who's not. Again, we did it for the Bessie race. We did it for the Bossier City Council race. And, it wouldn't be hard to do for the mayor's race. So we may try to put something together. At least we'll offer it, and they can just choose to refuse. And that sometimes says a lot, too.
Yeah, not participating says a lot. You should be willing. I mean, look, whether you're Republican, conservative, or if you're seeking an elected office, it doesn't matter. Constituents are constituents, regardless of their party affiliation. You should be able to talk to them and ask and answer questions.
Yeah. So that's an interesting idea there, Mr. Tim Mueller. We'll try to do that. And look, we'll reach out to Adrian's office, see if he wants to come on the show. Worst he can say is no. So, all right. What else do we have to talk about tonight, Mr. Lowry? Anything in particular?
I say we have beat the horse to death. We flogged it as Rutting Buck. Did you realize I was criticized? Somebody criticized us and said we needed to quit giving people nicknames.
Well, let me see how I can phrase this. Tough. I'm not going to stop.
Me neither.
People call me plenty of names. Some names that don't need to be repeated on this show, I'm sure. So, but in all seriousness, it's only because Rutting Buck is a public figure by being the city engineer and addressing the city council. And so, there's a little wider latitude with public officials, even if they're appointed, not necessarily elected. So we say it in jest to him, but oh well.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
Here we go.
Tim Mueller, I know what he wants. I understand what he wants. Just for Tim Mueller, just so he'll be happy and he'll quit crying to everybody.
You NASCAR guys are killing me. It's almost as bad as us fishing guys.
Tim Mueller says, don't do it. All right.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up, folks. We appreciate everybody watching. Hey, y'all make sure and reach out to Mr. Elbert. Go to his website, go comment on his Facebook page. If you enjoyed listening to him, let him know that you enjoyed his interview and all that. We apologize for a little bit of technical difficulties, but, he did let us know he was way out in the middle of nowhere, and so he barely had cell service, so we had him in on a call, and even that was a little spotty, but I think it went pretty good. We appreciate everybody watching.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We can get Elbert up here for folks. If anybody wants to meet him, we could put something together. Or I'm sure that we can get him to the Republican Parish Executive Committee, and it doesn't even have to be that. We can get him one day, and if anybody really wants to come and meet him, we can do a live. And
super nice guy, super nice.
Surely he's going to have an opponent. We can have a Louisiana or lieutenant governor debate.
Yeah, exactly. We can talk about what to do about the Cypress Park.
He could bring his guns, and we can see how that works out.
Yeah, we could go do a range shoot or something like that. That would be an interesting place to have a lieutenant governor's debate.
Oh, and we're still taking applications for the wiffle ball team for the Tinsley.
At Tinsley Park. Yeah, we got to check into that, or I need to check into that here in the next few days and, see if we can go ahead and get that reserved. All right.
That's right.
Folks, we're out here. Again, we appreciate y'all watching. Tag, share, do all that kind of stuff. Send us emails to Louisiana Watch at Proton Mail. If you want to donate us some coffee money, I don't have a Louisiana Watch site yet. You can go to thebosierwatch.com. And I've added some content to bosierwatch.com or .org, either one. Go check that out. We'll do Louisiana Watch website before long. We're going to start adding some written comment too. And if I can keep all of these YouTube bots off of here, I'm going to have to turn off the comments on YouTube. Anyway. We'll see y'all next time, Tuesday night on Bossier Watch. We're out of here.
Good night.